たままだってごまかし笑っていた。足りなくて補って届かなくて、誰もがきっと見失って生きづらさの理由を知る。呼吸はまだ続くか、一息で貫くためには少し苦しいだろう。許せいっぱい我らが行くことを、今埋める時を身を焦がしゃききれても道だけは続いている。その美しさもあれにも大河に消えるだから残りが強せ集め、まだ進んでいけ進んでいけ世を越えて。間違えたままだって歩くのは得意だった。かけたままだってごまかし笑っていた。足りなくて補って届かなくて、誰もがきっと見失って生きづらさの理由を知る。呼吸はまだ続くか、一息で貫くためには少し苦しいだろう。許せいっぱい我らが行くことを、今埋める時を。
Good evening. We are picking up where we left off last time. Presumably for the last time this playthrough. Also, congratulations to Ryun on being first. Yeah, I should probably put some more gems on to cook, just in case. Never mind, I can't. Huh? There's something there. Oh, are they burning another boat? Wait, that one's still in the water. Calm down. The fire is used to lure fish so that they can catch them. Huh, interesting. Anyway, what's his face? Li Xuan. I need to do his digressions in order to, max out my Void Tree. I sense monsters. Wait, is there a servant too? I can't tell if they're friend or foe. What do we do, Yori? We'll have to find out for sure. Let's go. Even that couldn't stop you, huh? That makes this even more worthwhile. That's Rogue Assassin. Why is he fighting monsters in a place like this? Rogue Assassin. He was helping Shosetsu before. Why come here to destroy monsters? We're going to help Assassin. You don't mind, do you? If that's what you decided, let's hurry. You too? We'll lend you a hand. Don't worry, we won't get in your way. Well, ha! I'm glad to hear it. I'll be relying on your youthful spirit then. I'm not sure what emote that is, but it sure is spinning. And really, that's what matters. That doesn't sound like a Tomomo area line. Tomomo would be like, I am the young one. You did it. I'm glad you're safe, Lord Xuan. But what are you doing here? I was gathering catalysts for Magecraft. Catalysts? That girl wanted some. I was thinking I could give her one last gift. You must mean Shosetsu. In that case, let us help you gather those catalysts. Oh? Yori? Don't worry, it's just a short diversion. If we don't find it, that'll be that. Hey, you're pretty diverting yourself, Yori. Is he ever flirting with me? I have two things to ask of you. Monster Eye Core and Mystic Crystal. The first is something obtained from monsters. I was just gathering some. That girl was hunting monsters near Setagaya to replenish her supply of his catalysts. Setagaya, eh? Understood. What was the other thing? Well, it's something that originally belonged to that girl. Oh? Well, haha. It was stolen by a pupil of hers. She can be unexpectedly careless at times. It had been sealed within a bounded field, but the moment the field was released, her student made off with it. I see. Led astray by the lure of money, perhaps. Huh. In other words, you want us to track down the culprit? Yep, that's correct. I hear he's hiding in Okachimachi. I'll tell you what he looks like so you can find him. Huh, very well. Sorry to be a bother, but I'll leave it with you. I'll keep busy gathering more catalysts. Setagaya? Oh, hey, look, it's Arya. The puppy.
一つ強くなれたか。
この回ではなかったか。
And then we pet the dog, very important.
気持ちいいか。
ほら怖くないぞ。
How she could attack this? It does heal you. It's something.
この回他の
These monsters seem different from the others somehow.
燃え盛る炎のごとく。
いつでも良いぞ。より
押し切る。受けてみろ。
いつでも良い。呼べ。
澄み渡る天のごとく。
覚悟は良いか。
見えている。頼む。
出番だな。我らが刃。引き立てる。と。
I think I've got to keep in mind is not to overwrite the file in slot 1. Because that's where the file right before choosing the route is. Right before the duel with Musashi.
遅いな。
いつでも良い。呼べ。
押し切る。
弱いな。いつでも良いぞ。より。
Oh, hey, Mark. Ow. My bones. Get another strike.
ツバメ返し。
In hindsight, I totally should have used Talamo's power first. Oh well.
捕らえた。どうした。見えている。
Wanna try it a third time anyway?
頼む。
出番だな。我らが刃。
And then we just gotta clean up some bouts. Good time. Poor thing didn't realize that it was already dead.
これが
Is this the catalyst that we're
一
after?
体どのよう
I
に
wonder what it's
使うの
used
だろ
for. In any case, we got a lot of them from that pack.
もう一つの触媒を探しに行くぞ。
My guess is that it's something that, like, either heals Shosetsu or prolongs her life. That's my guess. I may or may not be correct.
触媒を盗んだ者は
We were told that the thief fled to Okachimachi with the catalyst, but
う。
huh?
聞き込んでみ
Let's try
るか。
asking around. Be careful, Iori.
初めてこの町に来た日を
Do you remember
覚え
what
てい
happened
る
the
か。
first time you came here? We
あ
came
の時
here?
は
You got
君が
completely lost, and
バカを言ってな
yeah,
い。
yeah.
行くぞ。
Let's go. Also, yeah, some bats are called flying foxes, but they're not foxes.
あの
Ah, Ah, yes, that weak-looking fellow. Seems he was struggling with that. But when I last saw him, he seemed to be looking much happier. He said he'd stumbled upon a treasure, and that he was going to sell it off. I'm really not a fan of thieves. Come to think of it, the last time I met him, he was complaining about Lord Shosetsu. It seems he barely shows up at school lately. Rumors say he might be working for the Shogun. Hello there. Yushima Tenjin. He always seems to have something on his mind these days. He was talking about how school was useless and that it only added to his stat. I mean, depending on your elective, he's not wrong. Neat. I like how Saber was just like, ooh, kitty, entirely Hungaro. Good times. I wonder how long I could be satisfied with a game that's basically just like a really like immersive simulator for petting a cat. Yeah, I saw him just a few minutes ago. He was sneaking around and ran off that way. We got a lead on him. It sounds like he still has the catalyst on him. Let's chase him down, Iori. And then he got his soul eaten. Somebody screamed just now, but this is... That's quite a bit of magical energy. How interesting. And they're dead. Got Mystic Crystal. Is that the stolen catalyst? It's oozing with magical energy. So that monster had eaten it. In other words, this person whose soul is from Shosetsu was eaten up along with the catalyst. That scream must have been his last breath. There aren't any tracks. What a sad way to go. Yeah. In any case, we now have all the catalysts. We do. Let's deliver them to Assassin. Oh no. Anyway. I'm surprised they actually killed somebody in a decoration. Normally we get there just in time. I think he's literally the first, like, person that we failed to rescue. We gathered the catalysts, Lord Schwen. Yes, you should do nicely. Well then, let's go. Sorry to keep you waiting. Miyamoto Iori and Saber. Why are you with Assassin? They said they wish to be of use to you. That's why I had them assist in gathering catalysts for your magecraft.
そうか
I see. I apologize for any trouble.
気にするな
Don't worry.
共に
It's
戦う
only
者
natural
と
to
し
help out
て
an ally.
おかげで
Here you are.
主に頼まれて
Everything you
おったもの
requested has
す
been
べて
gathered.
確かに受け取った
It certainly has.
ご苦労
Excellent work,
あとこ
Assassin.
れがあれば
With these, I'll be able to...
ではな
At any
赤
rate,
坂へ向かう準
come
備が
speak with me
整っ
once
た
you're
ら
ready to head
声を
for
かけてくれ
Akasaka.
触媒の使い道について
Why did you ask what the catalyst to be used for?
小説の顔を見れば
Seeing Shosetsu's face, I had a pretty good idea.
問いただ
It'd
す
be
のは野
tactless
暮と
to
いう
press
も
for
のだ
more.
かか
Waha!
主
Quite the
なかな
wise
か
man,
ど
I
う
see.
やだがそんな
But those very
主だからこ
sentiments
そ
are likely what allow you to associate with that noble girl.
では貴殿はどう
What
だ
about you, Lord Shen?
見たところ小
From
説
what
の
I can
願い
tell,
には
you don't seem
さして
particularly
関心
interested
が
in
ない素
Shosetsu's
振
wish.
りならばなぜ
So why are you so willing to help Shosetsu?
若
I
い
suppose
主
a
には
youngster like you
分
wouldn't
からずとも当
understand.
然か
Remember this well.
幼子に壊れて
No old man would refuse the help of a needy child.
幼子
A needy child?
確かに主
As you
の
say,
言う通り
I don't have any particular interest in Shosetsu's wish.
だが
But that fastidiously innocent girl offers her very body and soul to move forward.
ならばその
As
歩み
somebody
と
who has
しかと
agreed to
見
help
届け
her,
ること
it is
こ
my
そ
duty to see it through to the end.
何案ずる
Come now, don't worry, I won't interfere.
娘と主の歩む道
I'll be
の果
watching
てに
to see what
何が
awaits at the
待つか
end of the path that you and she walk.
ではまたな
Until next time, young
若造
ones, if you are still alive, let us then battle to the death. I have formed a bond with Li Xuan. Can I do... I can. Alright. I need to kill people with him for that, but the important thing is I can just kind of go through here and get all this.
来たか
Well, what do you say to a pot of tea, eh? A cup of tea won't suffice, you say? Here, I'll even throw us some cakes this time.
老いてなお盛んというやつよ
ふむ
The centered focus of the void is the essence of combat. Isn't that right, Master? Raised the critical hit rate of finishing moves in any stance. Acquired perfect critical. Which is just that, yeah. Alright. I guess the only things left on the skill tree are things for, like, making super close friends with all the servants. There are no... there are no digressions left at this time. Let's take a nap. Gather our gems, save our game,
人や
maintain our swords. It's been a little while since I've done that.
丹念に手入れしよう
Yeah, if Rogue Saver is not available post branching of the story, then I didn't get in this route. Or last route. Oh well. A little bit annoying that there was really no way to tell, but it is what it is.
名刀にも劣るまい
Save it not in slot 1. What do you do?
どういうつもりかしら
Just what are you up to, Miyamoto Yori?
あ
あの白い髪の
The homunculus with the white hair, Yui
逃
Shosetsu.
げられたのは
It
私
was
の
my
落ち度
fault
だ
it was able to escape, so I'm not gonna ask for it
あ
back.
れは危険な存在
But
よ
it's dangerous. Are you really gonna take it with you?
南蛮の魔術にはいさ
I
さ
know
か
little of
疎い
Western magic, so I'm not sure why you're worried.
少なくとも俺は
That being said, I simply choose to believe in
答
Shosetsu.
えになっていないわよ
That doesn't really answer my question, does it?
そう
Well,
まったく
you're trouble, aren't you?
いいわ
Fine
日
then,
が終わるまで
I can wait until the
待って
ritual
て
ends.
終わったら
Once it
あれは
does,
我が
I'll
家
take
で
it back
保
to my
護するわ
family. Don't even think about interfering.
それは
Didn't you just say that you're not gonna ask for it back? No, ha ha ha.
とりあえずこれを
At
渡
any
して
rate,
おく
take this for now. It's specially made with my magecraft. Pure Moon.
キャスター戦では役に立つでしょう
It should come in handy against
手付け
caster.
代わりに
Consider it a down payment.
行為として受け取っておく
I'll consider it a
手
favor.
付けって聞
Did
こ
you
え
not
なか
hear
っ
me say down payment? I'm pretty sure mine's better. Anyway,
兄ちゃん
Yari,
小説さんは
did you see did you see Shosetsu?
一人で歩ける
Yeah,
程度にはな
walking around just fine, thanks to you.
そう
Really? But isn't it a bit too early for that?
そうだな
That's true.
兄ちゃん
Yori,
兄ちゃんは
are you going with Saber to another fight? Yeah,
そっか
I see you.
かや
Aya, can I ask you a favor?
何
What is it?
握り飯
I'd like rice balls. Not just a few, but tons of them.
戦から帰ってき
When
た
I get back from
ら
fighting, I'll definitely be hungry.
頼めるか
So, will you
小
make
笠
them for
原
me?
殿には悪い
I'd hate to bother Lord Ogasawara,
う
but
ん
alright, I'll make a bunch of rice
分かった
balls.
小笠原の家にはね
I'll go tell the
兄ちゃんとこ
Ogasawara
泊ま
family
る
that I'm
って
gonna stay
言
at
って
your
おく
place.
だから
Which means you absolutely positively have to come back. Promise me. I promise.
そうだ
Alright, here, take this.
戦の最中にお腹空か
You'll be
せ
in
たら
trouble if you
大
get
変
hungry
でしょ
while fighting, right? I made some field
ありが
rations.
と
Thanks. Well then, time to get going. Okay, good luck and be careful out there.
支度は整った
Are you ready? Yes, yes I am.
うあ
より
Yuri, can I check with
あ
you?
覚悟
Check what?
ケイはすでに
Jang is now our enemy. Our paths have diverted, so
霊月が満たされる
we'll
前
simply
に
have to stop him before he completes the waxing moon.
そうか
Good, as long as you understand. They've seen through our subterfuge.
これはまた
Now this
な
is...
んとも多くの霊気
He's got control over so many spirit funds. Well played, Shang.
まっとうなやり方では
This is
な
not
い
a
ぞ
proper strategy. He must be
英
using
月
the
の
waxing
魔力
moon's
を
magical
持
energy.
ちこのままでは
At this rate.
よりすまないが
Anyway,
簡
could
単
we
に
possibly
寄れない
stop by
か
Kanda? Something I
私
prepared
の
could be
用
of
意
use
してい
to
た
us.
ものが
神田か
Kanda? Understood.
あらまだい
Oh,
たわ
you're
ね
still here, Miyamoto-Yori.
ドロデア
Dorothea?
か
Are you
と
coming
も
along?
いいえ行かない
No, there's just something I forgot to tell
日
you.
本橋に
My men are
私
waiting
の
in
部下を待機
Nihonbashi.
させている
I intended for them to do something
本
else,
当あな
but
たの手伝いに
I'll
回
tell them
して
to
あ
help
げ
you.
るわ
Just go there and ask if you need them.
日本橋だな
Nihonbashi, eh?
助かる
Thanks. We'll stop there on our way. Alrighty, wow.
頼むセイバー
I will send Saber this way and Yori this way.
見ろより
Look, Yori, it's rogue lancers and rogue archers' spirit fonts.
今はキャスター
It
の
looks
支
like they're
配
under caster's control now.
魔力の供給を
It seems that the magical
断たれ
energy
ておる
supply
よう
has been cut off. This is gonna be rough.
こちらに霊
If
視を
only we had time to take back the
してやれ
spirit fonts. Akasaka's pound appeal could be lifted by meeting a special condition. Oh, I just have to grab all the adjoining ones. That's not hard. I was gonna do that anyway. Shosetsu suggested going to Kanda, right? If we have the chance, maybe we should go. I can't allow you to run loose.
ろ。
Thank you for the headpats. I appreciate them. And they're dead. I have much to learn of the way of two swords. More importantly though, that maxed out my affinity, so now I can summon servants. Invaded minor font. Saber, kill that guy.
Saber.
任せておけ。 戻ったぞ。
Can Saber use Mystic Codes on their own, I wonder? Arya, please. Thank you. Saber can't use Mystic Codes. Okay. Yes, Saber go that way. Yuri double back, go this way. I received word from I received word from my lady earlier. She said to help you. Huh. Dorothea already told them all that, so you need not say anything. I will carry out my duty. Everything I do is for my lady. Seems a bit stuck up, but it can't hurt to have more people on our side. We only take orders from our lady. I mean, she's not accompanying us directly, but she's still helping us, which is important. Careful, they've set a trap. So, Yori can go this way. My thanks, Yori. I can now use a secret ability. Break. Ooh. Oh, a hidden ley line. Marvelous, I couldn't sense it at all. I partially concealed the ley line connected to Kanda in preparation for battle. My fight may have ended, but I can still be of some use to you. Indeed, ring your dead. You cleared a new path to Akasaka. Excellent work, Yuisha Setsu. But even I could be so deceived. Fight alongside Assassin? Sure. Now then, what should I do? Please lend me your aid. You should buy us some time. This is Caster's magical energy. Some manner of magic spell has been cast. What happened? I definitely felt something, but... There may be delayed effects. It might have sealed something. Let's proceed carefully. You cannot split up a Saber nor order Saber to intercept for a while for the next action on. Well, luckily I already split up, so it's fine. Saber can go that way. Li Xuan can go that way, and Yori can go this way. No. Yori can go this way. Actually... Huh, I didn't realize that was that good. Nice job, keep it up, Yori. I thought it was just like the directly adjacent ones. Alright. Well, in light of that... Saber keep going that way. Li Xuan go this way, Yori go this way. And I'll split up nor order Saber to intercept. Saber go this... Oh, I can't control Saber? Oh wait, no, Yori's action first, I think. Yori go this way. No, I guess I still can't control Saber. So it's not even can't split up with Saber, it's straight up can't communicate with Saber. Important distinction. Still can't talk to Saber. These guys are just doing their own thing. I want Li Xuan to go this way, and Yuri to go this way. I've got a bonus action, so I can do this and get away with it. Hurry, OP.
敵は撤退。こっちは準備万全だ。
Seriously, yes please. Yeah, not having Saber doesn't really matter when I've got, like, every other servant. This is fine. Awesome, I got Saber back. We can do this now. Ah, there they are. Keep an eye out for the flow of the ley lines. You go that way. You go that way. Actually, you go that way. Chinese officer. I was gonna say, I don't believe I fought this enemy type before. Which makes sense, because I've not been an enemy of Zhang before. Unfortunately for these guys, they're no Li Xuan. Much as they probably wish they were. Like legit, they're moving like Li Xuan, just like 100 times slower. Granted, they still hurt. And they're dead. Oh, looks like there's still more to come. That deal when you somehow make sushi out of a fox. And they get slapped for it. And then almost get flushed. And it's dead. With just over 3 seconds left on the clock. Alright, Li Xuan can go... Yeah, going there makes the most sense, I guess. Yori can go this way. Saber is doing what I want Saber to do. 300 hit. Surely there's more, though. That's way too much timer for just a bunch of Oni boys. Oh, hey, an Oni boys.
行くぞ。天地自然にあふるる力、ここに集いて刃となす。絶技、発揮、怒涛。
I like all the little ones just sort of like flying in the air. Noble Phantasm OP. I don't believe I've controlled Leash one before. I'm pretty sure his thing is only for killing humans, so I'm not getting any progress towards that on this. I take it that's like Yori's Earth Guard, where if I let go right as I get hit, I nullify the attack and retaliate. Not 100 techniques, just one will more than suffice. No second strike. Expire. I should really be counting the number of strikes. I guess he's not lying. It didn't take a second strike. It's gonna take like a 37, but like... let's see what he does. And is that... not bad, but that's all that you'll amount to. Sorry for the trouble. It seems like I was out of energy because somebody stole the ley line. You guys are headed to Akasaka, right? In that case, take this. Oh hey, another Spirit Devourer. Nice. Well now, Iori will definitely like this. I don't know much about that caster guy, but I owe a debt to that lush of a mage. I want you to knock some sense into him with this. One hit ought to do it. I'll see to it. Thank you, Lancer. Nah, I'm the one who should be thanking you. If something happens, just call. The enemy is interfering with the ley line. I'm not sure what they're up to, so stay on guard. If the ley line is severed, we'll never reach Akasaka. We don't have time to waste. We need to get to Zang. Some ley lines will be temporarily untraversable. Lancer, hi. I'll ditch the darting dragon, I suppose. So, like, which ones are untraversable? That guy's doing his own thing. Shuen. Yeah, I'm fine with Shuen going there. And Iori can go here. I am once again maxed out on gems, always a good feeling. Ow, I dodged into a fireball. Always a bad feeling. I really enjoyed the big heavy hit that Berserker gave me. Just in general, I'm a fan of like single really powerful attacks. It's just something very appealing to me about seeing somebody's like the sum total of somebody's effort and just like pummeling straight through it. My magical energy has returned. You have my gratitude. It was nothing. We're just glad you're okay. We need to hurry and get to Akasaka. Ah, one moment, please. Allow me to return the favor with this. Killed a couple guys. Is this? Now be off, Miyamoto Yari. This will surely be your final battle. Thank you, Archer. This trifle warrants no thanks. If you ever need my assistance, please call for me. Archer! I will follow your command. I'm counting on you. Archer can go that way, Saber and Lancer are going that way, Schwen's going that way, Zeus is going that way, Yori can go this way. Some ley lines are temporarily untraversable. I presume it's the ones that are purple. Yeah. Saber, you go that way. Lancer, you go this way. The two of you are fine. Schwen, you head back that way. Alright, I can't go over there. I suppose I just wait and I let things finish up. Seized all the ley lines, have you? Nice, good work. All that remains is the bounded field in Akasaka. Break that, and we can enter. Right. We're coming for you, Zhang. This is as far as I go. I leave the rest to you. There are things I must attend to once the ritual ends. Thanks for your help. But what things? It's none of your concern. You've received your down payment, haven't you? Saber, please come back. I can't call her back, but this is fine. I'll just go in. There we go. Arya, come back. This isn't mud. It's corruption. Was the waxing moon filled with this? How awful. There's no sign of anybody nearby. Could Zhang have used magic to keep people away? It seems that way. The Waxing Moon's vessel is over there. If we don't hurry, all of Edo might be engulfed. Be careful not to touch the corruption. It'll harm you. Right. Shosetsu, stay behind us. You have no reason to worry. I won't be a burden. You be serious, Yori. Your words will do nothing. Let's put an end to this ritual now.
そうだな。
You're right. Let's go together, Shosetsu. Now's the time to put it all on the line. Yeah, pro tip, only gamble with your life if it's actually worth something to the other party. Saber saved me from getting punched and sent that guy flying. Nice. Thank you, Saber. Oh, my bones. But I lived.
まだ死ねない。力を借りる。
お呼びでしょ
逃げた。遅いな。
And they're dead. Not a scratch on me. Oh no, more things that can scratch me. But not if I scratch them first.
雨返し。遅いな。受けてみろ。
Oh, more guys.
こっちだ。 澄み渡る天のごとく当たりはしない。揺るがぬ地のごとく熟した。力を借りる。
出番だな。我らが刃突き立てる。避けるなよ。
And it's dead.
余計な時をかけてしまった。
We've wasted too much time. We need to keep moving. But first, I have to pick this thing up off the ground. Oh, it is them. We're gonna take a 5-minute break here. Please use this time to refill your beverage, go to the bathroom. Anything that would take you about 5 minutes. I will see you shortly. I return after about 4 minutes rather than 5. But like, I was about a minute late, or I was a few minutes late starting, so like, who's counting? Alright, we've got it cornered. I won't let anyone else have the waxing moon. Your wish will lie shattered. Huh. Now those are the words of the inhuman and merciless prince you are. You've never tried to understand the cost of shattered wishes, and you never will. Your words are meaningless. Whatever you say, I am still me. I have one last question for you. Caster, what is your wish? You can't be wishing for your master's victory, right? It certainly doesn't look that way. Ah, so you're trying to uncover my true name? That nerve deserves an answer. I wish for nothing but to continue recording every event that occurs on this world. You see the moon cell? I do everything because I am me, as proof of my existence, my progression. Proof? The ritual will end if the waxing moon breaks, and my records will go up in smoke. That is the one thing I cannot allow. I am the first recorder. I remember and recorded the very birth of Japan. The first recorder, the birth of Japan. So he recorded the Japanese myths? No wonder he knows so much about Saber. My true name is Haida no Are. Oh, you probably never heard of my name, have you? You ignorant fool. And you, my new master, you understand, don't you? Of course. There is nothing left to say. The field of battle is prepared. Which leaves only one course of action. Don't you agree, Miyamoto Iori? Jing Mingyan, the unyielding general. Aida no Are, the Daybreak's recorder. You look into Caster's records and it's just like doodles of Tamamo, are ya? Well, I definitely hit him. But he avoided it, and it had nothing to do with his swordsmanship. He dodged it because he knew it was coming. This feeling, is it the same as those mind-reading monsters? It seems to give me the future, or something along that line. I have a plan. You'll have to trust me. I trust you. This is the other Shosetsu. Wow, my bones. I was at full health, far as I could tell. But I lived. I think I jumped up and got like 5 arrows straight to the base. At like the worst possible timing. They are readying something big. Okay, Jenkins now. What did you... Damn it, the records. saw it. Get ready, caster.
つばめ返し
If at all possible, I want to regenerate more affinities so I can call Tamama. Ah, my records are all out of order again. Meddlesome servants. Master, send me all the magical energy you can. I'll finish this here and now. Very well. Use whatever you need, but I will not accept defeat. Formed ere the word first took shape, this hath no name or motive, its figure unknown. All of creation dwelleth within the compass of my recollection. Puppet playground. A reality marvel. It's a secret art that projects a mental plane onto our world. Yuri, Saber, on your guard. What is he planning? Heroic spirits, noble phantasms, both are the power of human history made manifest. In other words, heroic spirits are merely fantasies spun from human imagination. I will dispel those illusions. Deities, dragons, demons, even magecraft, they do not belong in the human world. As far as I know, mystery does not exist in this world. As far as I know, you are only of men. Caster, what did you just do? And yet, I fear my noble phantasm may be incompatible with you. Tuh, how stubborn. I'll finish him while the noble phantasm is still working, Master. So presumably I can't use magecraft in here. Or I can. I can't use affinity powers, though. Luckily, there's nothing magic about rice balls. I'm trying to keep an eye on what Caster's doing in the background. It's very easy to lose track of. The good news is, once I get my servants back, I've got some affinity sorta. Some affinity sorta. There. You got me mid-cutscene. That's not allowed. No, none of that. None of that either, while you're at it. It's futile. I have rice balls. Ah, how infuriating. You're ruining my records. Damn, what am I supposed to do? Don't lose hope. It's working. Huh, yeah. Saber, you broke through the enemy's ability. That was nothing.
今こそ聞け
Listen well. I am Yamato Takeru, strongest sword of the Yamato line.
多くの王は
Many are the kings, gods, and demons I have felled. Many are the lives that I have
多
taken.
くの誉れを
I
得
have
ながら
received countless honors, and I have committed countless offenses.
血が流れた
I have shed blood and
涙は
tears.
悔やんでも
My path was one of unabating regret, and yet
それでも
it was the path I
私の
chose.
命を閉じて我が妻が
My
開い
wife
て
risked
く
her
れた
life to open that path.
ただ
It was
一
the
つき
only
り
one
の
I could take.
その歩み
I won't let somebody like you erase my course through history.
この最低期
You would redefine yourself? Such foolishness is categorically absurd.
やはり相
It
性
really
最
is
強か
incompatible with you, Yamato Takeru. You're the genuine article.
お前という英雄
A
は
hero like you. No matter what I say, you still exist.
そうさ
Yes,
現
there
実の
is
陰に
mystery
いつも
motivating all of
神
reality.
秘はある
I'm well aware. Ah, even with the power of Puppet Playground, can I not erase you?
僕の知る限り
As far as I know, you are no more than a man.
お呼びでしょうか
僕の知る限りお前は記録にない
As far as I know, there is no record of you. As far as I know, your existence is a lie.
偽りの存在だ
It won't work.
私は私だ
I am mean, and I am here to fight.
ここにあるがまま剣を振るうのみ
Why do you continue denying my records?
僕の記録を否定し
Ah, my bones. And unfortunately, I didn't have an extra one up. Regrettable.
危険ツバメ返し
I guess rather than being like per encounter, that's like per map.
大丈夫ないのかそうみにまるで力が入らない
休んでいろ
This is fine. I got this. Ah, I like the description.
面倒くさいが
It's like they were roommates, right? It's like, no, no. We shared not just a room, but a bed.
さっき番宣遅い
Well, that's interesting. I can slash the red things. Ow. Oh. I didn't even realize I had these. When did I pick these up? I could just dump a bunch of limit breaks into them. If I wanted to. But like, what if I need it more later? You with the gold time resin? But like, gold time resin can be like, just purchased infinitely if memory serves. Man was learning from Archer, it seems. And he's dead. And he's about to be. If I have anything to say about it.
受けてみろ
On my bones. But I lived.
味わうといい
No shenanigans for you. Wizards can't cast spells if you just crush their skulls in.
捕らえたもらった
You're ruining my records.
セイバー敵
僕の知る限りお前は凡人に過ぎない
As far as I know, you're no more than a man.
任せろ
僕の知る限りお前は
There's never gonna be a your existence is a lie.
僕の知る限りお前は偽りの存在だ
無駄だ
It won't work.
私は私だ
I am me and I am here to fight.
今ここにあるがまま剣を振るえのみ
Why do you continue denying my records?
僕の記録を否定し続ける者たち英雄ども
たね清き水よ
Oh, sacred water.
たゆたい流れ
Trickle, flow, rush to the sea as a star.
絶技発揮怒涛
I was afraid I wouldn't kill the Noble Phantasm gauge before the substitution gauge ran out. But here we are.
やっはっ
セイバ
They're a team.
相性が悪す
We
ぎ
are
る
a horrible match.
マスター
Master.
ああ
Very well. Oh, he's still got his command spells.
必ず願いを叶え
I
る
vowed
誓
to
っ
see
た
my
のだ
wish
から
granted.
俺は英月
With the
を手に入
waxing
れる
moon in hand,
陛下の国
I
を
will restore His
取り戻
Majesty's
す
kingdom.
全て持っていけ
Take everything you need, caster.
敵を
Eliminate the enemy. He just burnt all three of them. That's not good.
了解
As you will.
最悪の決心
Catastrophe incarnate, arise from the void.
より来たれ権限せよ
Manifest thyself. No.
なんだあれは
What is that?
あの莫大な
That
魔力
energy. Don't charge in blindly, Iori.
より
Oh dear.
疑心将来
Invoke the demigod, Yasomai Gatsuhi. Well then,
ヤソマガツヒ
Yasomai Gatsuhi,
逆祭の神だ
a god of destruction shrouded in mystery.
滅ぼせ
Divine being, destroy them all.
魔術の次
You
は
deal with the huge
神
spell
霊
and
を
then cast a divine spirit?
なんという
This is madness.
やることは同じだ
But nothing has changed. We defeat Caster and destroy the Waxing Moon's vessel. Yes. Why does it have two penises? False god Yasumakutsuhi, the Avatar of Calamity. Caster, do you plan on taking my life along with the command spell? You spent all three, so Caster can now. You told me to do as much. Stop whining. I'm offering my spirit core as well, you know. Oh, the mocking. Does that not satisfy you? I don't care what you do as long as you win. Oh, the burning. What a pointless conversation. A god of destruction, even as foul and loathsome as it is, this sense of divinity. Born of the corruption of the underworld, Yasamagatsuhi is worthy of its evil name. Are you injured? Nope, rice ball. Don't take it too far, Yoi. Keeps flying in circles. Hit until it falls, break its defenses. Shell gauge is gone. Our blades shall pierce through. Oh no. We put up a thing that we had to pierce through. Whatever shall we do? What are they doing? Get ready, something's coming. Assassin, your efforts will not be wasted. Feel the fury of my onslaught. Oh, she broke straight through it. Awesome. Go, now. Does she not have access to that attack if I don't do the assassin digression? That's interesting. I wonder if more people would be helping if I'd done more. The strength of this magical energy. Both of you, come to me. I'll create a defensive field. This is literally a Final Fantasy XIV raid at this point. It is an ancient god, I suppose. Completely unlike normal monsters. Honestly, you guys are too much. So you're not giving up, even against a monster like this? Give up? With the number I've slaughtered, I'm almost bored of killing gods. There is no adversary that could bring me to my knees. You should have already known that we're not prone to giving up. I sound incompetent when you put it that way. Just stand there and watch us destroy it, Chang. Let's go, Saber. Use that sword however you see fit. You don't have to say that again. The brilliance of my sword will blind my enemies. I saw you had that, I thought I may as well use it. Oh, my bones, they're melting. Oh, the rest of me, it's melting. No, no shell gauge for you.
ライダー
すぐに参りますわ。
危険ツバメ返し
I'm pretty sure that Arya's buff also makes it so that I chew through shell gauges faster.
上だ避けろより
Above you. Watch out, Yori.
火の型終わりだ
避けるなよ
Oh no, here he comes again.
こちらに
Hurry over here. Even should I die, I will resist you.
しのいでみせる
Impossible. How could a demigod be defeated?
砕かれるだと。
澄み渡る天のごとく
覚悟は良いか
頼む
出番だな 観念せよ
I wouldn't call this a JRPG personally.
避けるなよ
It's got like one hit point left.
上だ避けろより
It sure would suck if I lost right now. Oh no.
散りゆけ
That was supposed to be a joke. Ah, this isn't looking good.
落ち着いて立て直せ
Yori, calm down and get back up. Oh, I lived, thank goodness.
出番だ
分かった
Shoot him, Saber. Yori, Saber, cut it down. And it's dead. Now, if this was a JRPG, there'd be a final phase with like a super Bishonen enemy.
より
Yori,
英月を壊せ
destroy the waxing moon. Takeru,
天地自然の諸
gather
力
here,
をここに
forces of heaven and earth.
回転
Sword of heaven.
ブラックモノ剣
Damn.
貴様を歴史に
From the moment I've etched your legend into history, my defeat was inevitable. The light. Also, this cutscene is pre-rendered. So, like, am I to presume that every servant went poof after the waxing moon was destroyed? Yeah, there's probably going to be another post-credit scene. There was after the last one. There's like a short list of credits, then a scene, then like a longer list of credits. Yeah, it's not easy to keep paying for a servant without support from a Krail. Dorothea just pulls out a gun and shoots him in the temple.
まだジパングにいたの？
You're still in Japan?
この町を
I
放って帰
hesitate
る
to
のがため
abandon
ら
this
われるだろ
town.
う。皆に
I've caused everyone so much trouble,
その上
and I still
結
couldn't win in
局
the
勝
end.
てずじまいとは。
英月の儀なんて
The waxing
手段
moon
に過ぎ
ritual
ない
is
わ。
simply a means to an end.
ダメならダメで
If it doesn't
他
work
の手
out,
段を
there
選
are
ば
other
なきゃ
ways.
よ。あなたも
Why not look for those other ways?
強いな。
You are a strong one.
当然よ。
Naturally,
私
I
は
am
荒
a
野
mage
家
of
の
the
魔
Quiet
術師だ
family.
もの。彼との共闘
About your alliance with him,
本当なら
you
早々に
intended to
決定す
cast
る
him
つもりだった
aside
の
even
でしょ
earlier, didn't you?
途中
Did
で
you get
冗談は
sentimental
言った
about it
か
at
し
some
ら。
point?
さあな。
I wonder about that myself.
まあいいわ。
Well, let's leave it at that.
あなたとはまたどこかで
I
戦
have
う
a
気
feeling we
が
will
する
battle again somewhere.
その時にま
When
だ
that
甘
time
えを捨てき
comes,
れない
if you
よう
are
であれば
unable to discard those sentiments,
私が
my
勝つだけ
victory will be assured.
帝将軍
General Zheng.
「魔術師らしくない」
Silly me. That wasn't something a mage would say, was it? I will use any means
俺自
necessary.
身の力で叶えてみせるさ。
My wish will be realized.
Archer.
I'll show you, Archer. The ritual has ended, and yet his blade remains unsated. So now we go and we see what happens if we don't destroy the Grail. First, you have to go through Musashi.
Kuの方だ。
私が呼んだのか英月が呼んだのかはたまたミスちゃんが単にやってきただけなのかともあれ妙な巡り合わせがなけりゃこの勝負はなかったなんて考えもしたけどさ
Kuの
あの二人がいつかどこかで巡り合ってまた果たし合いを始めちまうかもねそうかもしれない剣の頂を目指して
I could not tell you why, but I suddenly just, like,
相手を認めるのに
had the sensation of, like, processed cheese on my tongue. I might be having a stroke.
空の方だ。
Like I assure you, I've eaten no such thing.
危険。
It'd be really funny if using the Void Valor Strike just instantly ended the fight. She's like, wait, where'd you get that? Little new game plus bonus. And I'll do it again.
ツバメ返し。
It turns out fights are a lot easier when you can spam your limit break.
見えた。捕らえた。
やるね。武蔵ちゃんを相手にここまで。
ツバメ返し。
Guess I can't call him weak anymore. I don't feel
ツバメ返し。
like bad at all about spamming these because I've already been through this fight.
危険。
I'm just trying to get to the
ツバメ
dialogue.
返し。見えた。捕らえた。
ひらめいた。
And then she got my ass. But I lived, but she died. The waxing moon, I will not destroy it. What did I shout when she threw herself into the sea? Beloved wife. What did I shout on those plains? When I drew the divine sword in the inferno. What did I shout? What did I curse? What did I wish for? Let's put this one here, I suppose. From the night Iori's tranquil youth ended till today, those that were drawn to Edo by the moon exchanged their blades, words, and hearts, watching them fall, witnessing their passing. The moon is now swollen, and the time is nigh to attain the waxing moon, to fulfill his earnest wish. Entreat the darkness, in contrast to like ray of light. Iori, what are you doing? Command me to break the vessel, Iori. Or are you gonna do it yourself? Saber? What if? What if I told you not to break the waxing moon's vessel? What would you say? Iori? Yes?
この後に及んで妙な
After we've
こと
come
を
so
言う
far, that would be a terribly selfish thing to say.
そうだな。
You're right.
あくまで
But what if
も
I,
しもだ
your master, said that? What would you do?
お前は聞
Would
く
you
耳
ignore it?
お前ならば
What about you? What would you
どう
do,
する
Chiemon?
貴様
You! What a boring question.
釣れないな。
Don't be like that. Just tell me. You can't even.
残念だったね
Yeah, sorry, but I'm taking the waxing moon right now. First, I'll kill you. And your eyes. Ah, you finally worked up the nerve to pull back the mask you've been wearing in this world. It's incredible, just incredible. You're incredible.
どうした
What is it, Chiemon? Are you scared? Huh. Who do you think?
では
Then let's get started.
試合とい
I'll
こう
fight to the death, of course. That's why you came here,
そ
isn't
の
it?
さあ
Come on. Runs away.
言ったか
And he's gone.
より
Yori,
邪魔は失せた
there's something in our way.
最後の試合
We
に
need to
か
put
か
an
る
end
と
to
しよ
this.
うん
Right?
なんだその顔は
What are you making that face for?
あ
Did that question bother you?
ああんなものはただ
It
の
was just a
冗談
joke. A stupid joke. Forget about it.
より
Yori, you're... A rat, eh? And then he exploded. I knew something smelled fishy. Looks like we're at the right place anyway. You're a caster, Sujigado servant. Been watching from your own bounded field, eh? Since you're still materialized, that must mean you found a new backer. Hey, you're a sniveling little sneak, aren't you? You're an annoying squeaky rat. Ah, the rats have been ruined again. Thank you for the headpats. Unfortunately, a boring rat like you doesn't deserve any of my time or energy. Leave. Do I look like the kind of fool that would listen to you? You stink just like me. Ah, breathe it in. The fiendish stink of a fiend. Just die already, do it now. All 7 heroic spirits must die for my wish. A wish? Your wish? It sounds absurd when you say it. If you're willing to throw away a life or two, then there might still be a way, but... You cowered before the sword demon, didn't you? Oh my. The dead of Shimabara must be grieving as well. You don't know the first thing. So your wishes of revenge, destruction, both are boring and baffling. Become the cornerstone for my wish. I will obtain the waxing moon and record everything. The waxing moon is too good for someone like you. You got away with words? Stop scratching, rat. It's annoying. You make no sense. There's no point to all this. Oh, and then he lost his hand. You still do not understand, supplicant? Your revenge shall never be granted. That may be, but you won't get what you want either. Is he granting his last command seal? So this is your fire. Where did this power? No, all of history, And he's gone. He set fire to the library. And to Chiemon. Lancer, you
俺のところ
don't
へは
follow me. And he's dead. Yeah, she was recovering after being hit by Ushigosen's lightning. Oh, she wasn't involved in that explosion. That's even more impressive. And now he's gone, so she's going.
Master,
Master,
きっと
surely
あなたにとって
you,
は
this is...
これで どうかなされま
Has
したか
something happened?
見ろ
Look. The command spell vanished. Does that mean the caster... I don't know what happened to him, but to think that he'd up and disappear after saying all those things.
人を
Well, thank you
煽
for
る
the
だけ
headpats, I
煽って
appreciate
消え
them.
るとはな
In the Muso games, she self-immolates in flames and then immediately dies, so the implication here is that he remotely triggered that noble phantasm. Gotcha. I don't know what happened to him, but to think he'd up and disappear after saying all those things.
それほどうまい話は
Guess it can't
転
be
がっ
helped.
ていい
Oh well.
ここはおとなしく引き
We'll
上
just
げ
have to
るほか
withdraw.
あるまい
What a pain.
ですが
Maybe so, but
勝利のためならばいかな
I'm
る手も
prepared to
い
do
とわな
anything
い
to
覚
win,
悟だ
but rushing into futile battles is a bad move.
英月代わりの土
Forget the
産でも
waxing
探
moon.
して
I'll find a
帰る
souvenir
ぞ
for my brother Nagasaki and head home. Oh,
してそ
a
の土
a
産と
souvenir?
本来なら英月か
I was hoping to take the
せめて
waxing
幕
moon,
府
or
の
at
恩
least the
恵を持って
shogun's
帰り
soldiers
たい
with
とこ
me,
ろだ
but
鉛に銅に
lead,
商売の
copper,
種
imports, a Dutch ship,
それから乱人た
something
ち
like
の
that will have to suffice.
いずれもあちらでは
We
た
can't
や
get
す
our
く手
hands
に
on
入
things
ら
like
ない
that
も
so
のだろ
easily back home, yeah?
は
I
皆
concur.
が喜びましょう
Everyone will surely be pleased.
天長の英月には
If the waxing moon won't fly me there, I'll pile stones one by one until I touch the sky. We never relent. That is our strength. We will fight until the bitter end. Pack up, we're going home.
無様であろうと
I will struggle on. I will fight a battle that my archer would be proud to witness.
おれより
Come now, Iori. Show some consideration.
あ
Yeah. Nom. Oh, and now he looks different.
ありがとう
Thanks, Gramps. Unless that's just his back cover and I never saw it before.
英月
The waxing moon has been rendered powerless. That's the first time Saber has drawn that sword.
では
Allow me, Iori.
いや
No,
英月は
we will not destroy the waxing moon.
英月の儀によって
Many
江
lives
戸
were
の民
lost in the waxing moon ritual.
悪しきことを
It is evil and unforgivable, I know.
それはわかるだが
But
これ以上見てみ
I
ぬ
can't
ふりは
ignore
で
it
きない
any longer.
平穏の世にあって
In this time of peace, my
乾きに
blade
乾い
yet
た小野が
thirsts.
うちの剣を セイバ
Saber,
ー、俺は
I choose
英月を
to keep
災
the
いと
waxing
して
moon,
永遠に
to
残す
serve as an upheaval for all eternity.
そうか。
I see.
驚かないのかセイバ
This doesn't surprise you, Saber?
驚かないよ。
It does not.
君はそうするし
I
かな
knew
いだ
that
ろう
was
と
the only choice you could
分
make.
かっていた。
Saber's about to cry. He's also about to die if he picks this fight.
あ
Ah, I get it now.
あ、我が胸を焦がした
The warm light that filled my heart
いおりでは
wasn't yours,
な
Yori.
かった。今この時、
At this very moment. No, it must have been this way from the beginning.
いおりの実から放たれ
That
た
light radiating out of Iori.
そのありよ
It is just like
う、闇に溶け犬
the full moon,
望月
ready to
さん
drown
の
in darkness.
あ
Oh,
あ
Iori.
貴殿が放つ月光
The
が
moonlight emanating from you. It was
あ
pure
まり
white
に
and
真白
perfectly
く
clear,
私は
which is why I misjudged you.
そのうちに潜む
Looking beneath was a piercing chill,
ひどく純粋な
the cruelly pure demonic
剣の
spirit of the
利き
sword.
私は見
I
誤り
misjudged you and never noticed.
宮本
Miyamoto
や
Iori.
はり初めか
Ever
ら
since the beginning, we... Walking the path of peace, as gentle as the sun's warm caress. That's how others see me. That's how you saw me. But I'll say it again. That's not who I am. I try to do what I believe to be right. Sentiment and sympathy have their place. Living peaceably is the obvious way to lead a happy life. It's as simple as breathing. I know all of that. That's precisely why I followed along. But even so, this was never my goal. It was never something I dreamed of. My goal has always been the same. It cannot change. The one thing I crave for is to master the way of the sword. So you see, Saber, I'm not a kind person. This gentleness I exhibit, this peaceful path that I follow, I've lived a righteous life in order to understand the people of this tranquil world, that I might understand how they feel, how they think, and through that understanding, know how best to cut them down. The more I know, the more fall to my blade, the people of Edo, my teacher, you, everyone, and I mean it. I will stand over you all. That's why I live, to slay every person I see, like the perfect blade work I saw that night. And that is why. It must remain. The waxing moon must endure. His portrait has changed. The waxing moon must endure. It will serve as the upheaval that draws countless warriors. For my sake, it must remain. If I think about it, it's so obvious. Ever since that day I saw you cut the head off the giant serpent. Ever since that day I looked up to you as if you were a god of the sword. All I wanted is to fight you, a fight to the death. Ah, why am I so... Saber. Yori. Saber, the righteous prince. We might be running a little bit late tonight because I don't think there's going to be a whole route behind this fight. You are truly beautiful. I cannot sympathize with you. How wonderful would it be if I could realize your wish? How wonderful would it be if you could forget your wish? You don't need all your blood.
空の型だ。
気は熟した。無駄だ。
見くびるな。
Oh, Saber's not beating me, I assure you.
活目せよ。解き放つ。
燃え盛る炎のごとく。
Now you might think that looks like me losing, but in fact I lived.
まだ死ねない。澄み渡る天のごとく。どうしたセイバー。
油断したな。
Oh, hello. But
我らの
our wishes will never align.
未来永劫間違いない。
お前に
I met you.
師匠
I met my master.
出会ってしまった。
私は
I can't ignore what I must do.
私のなす
I vow on all the lives I've taken, I'll do what's right.
私が奪ったあまたの命に近い。全部出す。
乱世なき江戸
Even with Edo finally at peace, I chose to follow the sword.
剣の頂へ至る道を再び望んだのだ。
故に
For that reason, as somebody who does what's right,
すなわち
in other words, as just another bloodthirsty demon,
君を切る。
I will cut you down for your own sake.
お前を切るより
I will cut you down, for I have no other choice.
危険。ツバメ返し。
見せてやれ。甘い。
I assume those are like the link strikes that I never used.
気は熟した。無駄だ。
どうしたセイバー。
活目せよ。よっ。気は熟した。無駄だ。弱い行くぞ。見せてやれ。聞くものだ。 見切れない。甘い。
見えている。まだだ。
気は熟した。無駄だ。見せてやれ。聞くものだ。 そこだ。 気は熟した。
We're almost halfway there. I might have to take a break just because Twitch ads, I don't really have control over them. We'll see if there's a good break point.
気は熟した。無駄だ。見せてやれ。甘い。
Thank you. They're gonna do the wave thing. we go.
行くぞ。気は熟した。
Stop putting me in the soup, Saber. The washing machine is not much better, Saber.
付き合い。甘い。活目せよ。ここまでか。
And that was my face. Okay, we're gonna take a 5-minute break here, and then I'm gonna beat Saber up. Please use this time to refill your beverage, go to the bathroom, anything that would take you about 5 minutes. Normally this would be the end of stream, but I'm pretty sure that there's just gonna be an ending right after this fight, so... yeah, 5 minutes. See you shortly. I return. Much to Saber's dismay. Well, presumably.
どうしたセイバー。美しいツバメ返し。
君青
その願いを叶えてやれたらどれほど良いか。
その願いを捨ててくれればどれほど良いか。
見えている火の型。空の型だ。
This group is really annoying, I will admit. It like slows everything down.
そこだ。
押し切る。
油断したな。
Can we skip this cutscene, please?
我らの願い
Our wishes will never align.
間違いない。
お前に師匠に出会ってしまった。
Well, that didn't work.
私のなすべきを捨てられない。私が奪ったあまたの命の力全部なす。
乱世なき江戸の世であるのに
I choose to follow the sword.
俺は剣の頂へ至る道を再び望んだのだ。
ゆえに見せてやれ。火は熟した。無駄だ。
どうしたのセイバー。捕らえた。
活目せよ。
燃え盛るホムラのごとく。
無駄だ。見せてやれ。甘い。
澄み渡る天のごとく。
活目せよ。行くぞ。火は熟した。無駄だ。行くぞ。解き放つ。
That's Rainfall.
行くぞ。活目せよ。見せてやれ。雲のか。火は熟した。甘い。
どうしたセイバー。当てた。
Ah, that's funny. I set off both mines.
決める。
火は熟した。無駄だ。 熟した無駄だ見せてやれ
You know, the last time I was playing this, I compared Iori to Virgil. And on this route, it's definitely feeling a lot more like that.
見えている
隙あり
Like my humanity's holding me back, all I need is power.
避けるなよ活目せよ
見えたならば
火は熟した無駄だ見せてやれ
I've only got 18 gems, I gotta be careful. And then I ended up in the soup anyway. Oh, that's a rude combination is what that is.
火は熟した無駄だ
Luckily, Ice Balls don't have an animation, so this is fine.
火は熟した無駄だ
見えた
見せてやれ甘い
So like, oh thank you for that guess. Why do you say that this is the true route? Is it just because like at the end of the other routes it's like hinting at you that this is still a thing? Because it could just be canon that, you know, in the end his blade went unsated.
程度がセイバー違うだろう
Is this all you have, Saber? It can't be. Show me more.
見せてやれ聞くものか
I mean, Ray of Light was also a New Game Plus ending. Anyway. You are not allowed to have a shell gauge. Actually, hold on. If Saber could have a shell gauge the whole time, why didn't they ever use it while they were fighting for me?
め返し効くものだ。ここだ。そこだ。火は熟した。無駄だ。危険。つばめ返し。
And they're dead.
どうした。
What are you doing? Show me your true power, Saber. Naturally. Is this a current raging storm? Oh. Yeah, I think this is the end of the route for Iori.
君の言う通り、
It's like you said.
勝つために
To win, you have to
相手の
understand
気
your
持
enemy's
ちを考
feelings.
えたんだ。
Ah,
それは
there's no way I could defeat that. Did Saber aim for the waxing moon vessel that he had in his robe? I presume so, anyway. Iori, had you chosen a humane path, you'd be happy. But you chose the sword and threw it all away. Honor in taking others' lives ended in my time. No more war, only the path of peace remains. The battle fever has broken. You know, definitely, like, Saber knew what Iori was going to think, and yet, and baited him into making the wrong move, and then killed him. There's some weird artifacting there. Iori, you were... But I mean, like, in the process of killing Iori, I wonder if Saber went for the Waxing Moon vessel. Saber's like, I wouldn't want it to look like he lost a fight, so if I hang out here too, it just looks like we're chilling out. I was born in the wrong age. I cut away my ego, my desire. I have rejected the very air of this peaceful world. I will be as a breathless corpse. The way of the sword was no longer a choice today. But still, you have broken this sword of mine. It is exactly the life that I wished for. It felt like a long dream. Iori, ever since that night at the port, I was supposed to be killed.
と続く
It's as if I was yearning for
月
the
に
moon.
焦がれるような夢だった。なんだ。
Really, Master, you're just as bad.
師匠も人が悪い。剣であっても
As a sword, I could go no
これ以上
further.
はない。共に
But
恵
haven't I
まれ
been
る
blessed
こ
with
と
a
が
true
あるじゃ
friend?
ないか。
Okay, so presumably another small credits, then another post-credit sequence. I do find it really bothersome that this plays every single time and you can't count and you cannot skip it. Like, it's not that long, but also it could just be 0, you know? It is an ending, but it doesn't have to have credits over it. Like, I am willing to have that put up in front of me, like, once per game. More so than once per route. There we are. Here fast forwards the credits on routes that, if you've already seen them. Oh, Saber did not destroy the book yet. Is the atmosphere I'm really bored with your game now? Because that's the only thing it feels for me. Anyway, by rights, you could have been the one to grant my wish. But it matters not. My wish was granted. I desire nothing else. And it's done. Miyamoto Iori, you are my only. I presume that his wish was to have a friend. Or their wish was to have a friend. Oh, whoops. Sorry, Kaya. I may have told a fib. At least these ones you can skip. Complete and treat the darkness. So yeah, that was FateSamurai Remnant. Thank you for watching. Thank you for spending time with me. I always appreciate it. Thank you for the headpats as well. Next scheduled stream is going to be on Wednesday. The game is going to be Yoshi's Island. As for what I'm doing on Friday, I have not decided yet. I'll figure it out over the next few days. Maybe. Or maybe I'll just, like, scramble for a decision last second, who knows? I certainly don't. Either way, I hope you have a wonderful night. I hope to see you again. Good night.